It's always fun to come on a little bit early. We have just gone on Facebook Live. Hi. I see someone peeking in the side there. So good to see you all. And tonight, I was just telling our Facebook Live viewers that this is our 10th Pearl of Wisdom. It's all about delicious, delirious, and delightful. So we're going to have some fun tonight. You know, each week, Mynoo takes us on this deep dive to discover a new pearl of wisdom. And there's 108, so we're only on our 10th one. But it supports us in co-creating a world that works for everyone. So welcome, Asha. Welcome, everyone, tonight. We are focusing on deliciousness and its ramifications on our world. So you're going to get to experience deliciousness in all facets and understand the secrets of expansion that lies hidden in the deliciousness. So I am so excited to have you all joining us. Hi, Linda, good to see you. David and Helene, great to see you. And as you continue to come on, I'm going to turn it over to Mynoo so she can get us started. She's going to share her unique insights and a refreshing perspective on delicious, delirious, and delightful. And here we are with Mynoo. Good to see you, Mynoo.
Hi, Catherine. We have a few minutes before everyone else comes on. So if you want to have any particular questions that you think we should bring out at this time, we can do that, Catherine.
You know, I'm so interested in this one aspect where you said the ramifications on our world, deliciousness and the ramifications on our world. So I wonder if you can give us like maybe a sneak peek into that. It's always so interesting, your perspective and looking at things through your vantage point, your lens. So what we come to expect is always a surprise and delight because, yeah, you give us a different perspective sometimes than what we expect.
I'm going to probably go over it again when everyone is there. What was surprising for me was we just take deliciousness as something that we associate with food, or maybe sometimes people talk about it in the context of an experience. But it's like, oh, that feels delicious. And then it's, you know, it's on to the next thing. What I did not fully appreciate was this is a pearl of wisdom. So, you know, we could use any words, right? The fact that there are few that have been chosen as a pearl of wisdom basically suggests that it has got what it takes to address many of the issues that might interfere in having a world that actually works for everyone. So when I then, went into it more deeply, I started to see that it is a sensory word. You know, it is something that has an impact on every sensory organ of ours. It transforms our way of being. You know, we don't even have to speak it. Some words you speak and it makes a difference. Here you experience it and your way of being shifts. So more about it when we begin the session. But that was really the sneak preview, if you like.
Thank you. And we've just been joined by Daniela and Cheryl. We have a few more people that are coming in. Sarah, welcome. Nice to see you all. Karen, hi. Connie's joining. And then we have so many of our regulars here tonight. So this is going, you know, Mynoo, tell us a little bit about Musty and Miracles, because I feel like that goes with what you're up to tonight with this delicious, delirious, and delightful.
So there's a body of work that I have shared with people who are a part of the business collective that I work with. And it's a body of work which I call as the innate vibration. So each one of us has an innate vibration, you know, and that innate vibration is a gift that just comes naturally to us. It's beyond source mastery, you know. It is something that is like literally cellular and nanocellular that exists in each one of us, and it's different for each one of us. So for Catherine, it is inspiring greatness. That's her innate vibe. So in her natural state, if she did nothing, that is something that just comes naturally. to her. That's how she operates. Gaurav, who you've seen sometimes, and he's my partner in bringing all my wisdom out into the world. Um, his innate vibe is certainty. And, it's interesting to understand that if he doesn't have that sense of certainty, he just does not move forward because that is his innate vibe. So my innate vibe is masti and miracles. Masti is unbridled joy. I mean, it's a particular nuance to unbridled joy even, right? Um, there's something quite divine about this unbridled joy experience. And that combined with miracles is my innate vibe. How that shows up for me is ever since I discovered that I'm about expecting and accepting miracles, becoming the norm for humans and humanity, that was pretty cool in itself. And then I became really serious about miracles. Like seriously looking at, what's going on right now that's making my heart sing. And that stopped making my heart sing. And like even miracles, until I discovered, oh, my innate vibe is masti in miracles. So the combination is what brings me alive, if you like. So now that I know what that is, that's how I show up. I'm looking for the masti, the unbridled joyousness in what is making my heart sing. And that's how it shows up. So yes, today's pearl of wisdom is very much in line with that. And even the toughest pearls of wisdom that we've talked about, like anxiety and anguish and depression and all of those, they've been pretty heavy, anger, heavy stuff. And yet, in the way the wisdom chooses to come through me, in the way I automatically, just naturally, orchestrate or structure it, is such that it is possible for everyone to take action, regardless of whatever state that they may be in, and experience the transformation. That transformation from the wisdom that comes through when people implement it, the ease with which that transformation occurs, and the unequivocalness with which it occurs is me and my innate vibe.
And Mynoo, if others are interested in receiving their innate vibe, that would be the Journey into Miracles program, correct?
So. It's really the next level to Journey into Miracles. But Journey to Miracles is like, without being in your source and really doing the deep dive into understanding some of the nuances of how the universe works, really finding ways of dealing with I call them sergeant majors of fear and guilt and shame, which prevents you from living your passion now. So those are all the things. And then landing in a space of being truly madly, deeply in love with yourself. Once you've got all of that, you really are ready to receive your innate vibe. But that's like really the next level.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I know we'll be doing a Journey into Miracles for the US market again in March, April. So we'll keep you posted of that. But tonight, over to you, Mynoo, for the delicious, delirious, and delightful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone. So great to see all of you again. Today, yes, it is about deliciousness. And it extends to delirious and delightful. So let's see what we have in store for us today. Catherine asked the question about the ramifications of deliciousness on our world. And I started sharing with her that when I looked at this pearl of wisdom and looked at the nuances contained within this phrase of delicious, delirious and delightful, I knew that there was something quite profound about it, because anything that gets classified as a pearl of wisdom, it only happens as a pearl of, it only gets chosen as a pearl of wisdom because it has the capacity to transform our world in such a way that it's a world that works for everyone, just like Bucky Fuller shared in his vision. So when I went into this with that lens, what I discovered was that deliciousness is, it's a it's an experience. You know, it's a word that we use, it's a phrase, but it's an experience. And it's an experience that's a very sensory one, and also a very physical one. It's one of those things that is an experience that also transforms our way of being. So I call it's one of those phrases which has the capability and capacity to deliver a full spectrum living and coming alive experience. So when I looked at deliciousness with that perspective, I realized that not only does it give us that joy of deliciousness in the moment, it continues to linger because it transforms our way of being. You know, we take an action and that action results in an experience that we use the phrase, it's delicious. And then we move on to the next thing. But actually, if you just pause and just be, having exclaimed that something is delicious, you notice that it actually shifts your way of being. Just even declaring something or a relationship or someone as delicious, it shifts your way of being. And really everything that we ultimately experience is a function of how we are being in that moment. You can be busy doing, and you can go from one task to the next, to the next, to the next. How you are being when those tasks are actually being done gives you the experience of aliveness. And that aliveness may feel super busy and disconnected or mechanical, or it could be whatever it is that you declare it to be. Now, when you declare something as delicious, just think about it. Think about it in the context of foods. If you declare something as delicious, you know, you're engaging all of your senses. Absolutely, the taste buds are tantalized. There is a feeling, so there's something very tactile, you know, that the sensory organ of touch in terms of the feeling that gets generated from declaring something as delicious. That also is activated. And when you declare something as delicious and you pause and just be in that, in your declaration, you start seeing what's actually causing you to feel this way. You start hearing words that you are expressing. And you may not necessarily speak them aloud, but they start coming through. So it starts to engage pretty much all of our sensory organs. Just compare this to a declaration that something is good. There is an other side of the good coin, which is, you know, not good. So something that's bad. So good may feel sort of okay. It doesn't have that same feeling as when you say, wow, this is delicious. There's a wowness about deliciousness. So once I got this glimpse of deliciousness, I decided to really dive deeper into it. And I started, this is the stuff that has come through very recently. So really what I was able to do was to use it and apply it with the benefit of hindsight, like really look back at my life. And when I started looking back with that phrase, with that declaration of deliciousness, just so that I can practice what that feels like, and I can then also implement it going forward. So I just took my time in Bali, from 2010. And I decided to look at it with that delicious lens. And remember, the pearl of wisdom is delicious, delirious, delightful. Beginning with delicious, I got to see that when I talk about, when I look at something with the lens of delicious, I am engaging all of my senses. From the time that I made the decision and the choice to move from a life that I had built for myself in London and go on this adventure. And that adventure was really to discover who am I and what am I to do next. There was trepidation. I wouldn't say it, I wouldn't use the label of delicious in terms of what I was experiencing. What I did see, though, this is with the benefit of hindsight, that there were many other times that I had trepidation and I did not go through with it. And yet, when I applied the delicious lens to this, I realized that the reason why the trepidation that I had did not last because inadvertently I was looking at this whole experience of moving from something that I was very settled in to something that was actually going to be an adventure. And that it was going to be an adventure where I would start to get comfortable with the unknown. So what I had done when I look back is applied the delicious declaration to the phrase, I don't know, something which was not akin to me. I had to know everything. So if somebody asked me something and I didn't know about it, I would find it would get stuck in my throat. I wouldn't even be able to say I don't know. I had to go find out about it. What that meant was, not only was I busy doing my life like a hamster on multiple wheels, I also had to be out there investigating and researching and studying and finding evidence and all of that, like building my repertoire of knowledge. What I got to see was that remained in the realm of knowledge at best. And for me to move forward, remember you've heard me talk about data to information to knowledge. For me to move forward from really building on this knowledge and getting to a state of knowingness, like an inner knowingness, as opposed to a mental knowing, delicious was my pathway to enable that to happen, which meant I had to get comfortable with, I don't know. Did I know how long I would have to wait until I did know? But I don't know was the answer to that. And I believe if I had known this body of work that I'm just starting to share with you, it might have been easier and might have been faster. So I talk about delicious having these ramifications on our world. And all of these pearls have had a number 7 attached to them or a number 4. like 4 pillars of foundation or 7 steps or 7 ways or 7 pathways. So I'm just going to bring forth the 7 ramifications so that you can make a choice for yourself. So the declaration of delicious, the first ramification really is, it literally pushes you across the threshold. So delicious takes you across the threshold. In however uncomfortable or comfortable situation you may be in. So by making that adventure an adventure of getting comfortable with I don't know, dealt with all of the trepidations that I had. Didn't mean that they just went away. It was like, okay, I feel this trepidation. I could actually even acknowledge that. Before, I didn't even want to acknowledge any trepidations, just in case they interfered. So the first ramification of using the declaration of deliciousness with whatever it is that you are about to engage in, that may have some form of an undertone, it gets you across the threshold. And you are then able to move forward. When I do my evening sessions, we have people from London. So there are people there who've known me from those times when I had to know everything. So if they were here, they would be saying, that's what was going on. That's what caused the shift. Because nobody could understand how could I change so much so fast. But that bringing that deliciousness and of course, going to Bali had its own, you do work with deliciousness just from the taste of the food that's there. That helped. So that's number one. Then the second ramification. And this, the interesting thing about what we are talking about here is it is so in line with the 10 commandments that have been anchored on the world. They are at a level of foundation, defining our world. Where uncertainty is certain, unknown is the known, take nothing for granted is a modus operandi, change is constant. So delicious, looking at life in this delicious way, enables you to anchor yourself in certainty. So whatever occurs, you're going to, this is the second ramification. It anchors you in certainty when uncertainty is certain. So that, you experiencing deliciousness is up to you. It's your declaration. So it brings that certainty. So yes, I was going into a whole new world. Everything was different. From the place that I was going to live, and there was so much unknown. That uncertainty really was the name of the game. I didn't even know what the visa situations would be. If I went to Bali, I knew that in Bali you could only stay for 30 days. So what happens after 30 days? It wasn't particularly close to London. It would be a bit of a schlep to get all the way back to London. There's so much that was uncertain. And in that, by making the choice that I'm actually going to enjoy the deliciousness of this adventure, gave me that certainty. And it gave me that certainty because with that lens, I was able to shift my way of being. A very good example of how that served me was a point where I was in between Perth, Australia, and Bali, and my mother started becoming really ill, and then she was in the hospital for a very long time, and they put her on a ventilator, saying in 4 days she'll recover. She didn't. This 4 days became 10 days, then became 14 days, and I was seriously anxious about what was going to occur. So the uncertainty volume got turned up quite significantly. And of course, there was nothing delicious about, feeling that you couldn't go to India and just be there. So there was a lot of anxiety that was there too. But because I had chosen this, it's going to be a delicious adventure and getting to be comfortable about I don't know, I was able to make decisions and choices and choose that whatever it is that I was setting up at that time in Perth and Bali could actually be done in a different way in India. So I made that deliberate choice to just go to India where the end date was uncertain when I would come back from there. And what was my anchor to be able to make that choice was this choice of this is going to be a delicious adventure in I don't know, me getting comfortable with I don't know. So the second ramification is it provides an anchor to certainty when uncertainty is what's certain. The third ramification of deliciousness, it transforms your way of being. It transforms your way of being, and it is your way of being that gives you access to experiencing life as something that is mundane, something that is to be endured, or experience life by feeling that aliveness. So using the delicious approach of looking at whatever it is that you are engaged in, it transforms your way of being. And in this being of deliciousness, when you're being delicious yourself, you literally start noticing the nuances. And deliciousness multiplies. It's something that gives you, when something shifts your way of being. I often talk about this piece. I often talk about when people have a persistent complaint. It could be about anything, It could be about I can't lose weight, and that complaint goes on. Or, when are we ever going to return to the way things used to be? Nothing seems to be changing. Whatever it may be, a persistent complaint gives you a way of being, which actually generates more stuff to complain about. And the complaint actually, it remains in place. In fact, it becomes anchored so strongly. So having access to a pearl, which is just switching your declaration of how you look at life from however you look at it, to having it be delicious, your way of being shifts, and it becomes delicious. So yes, you can experience a problem like we did with the lockdown, or like I did with having got COVID, or finding I'd run out of pages in my passport recently, so couldn't leave the country. So, all of that stuff happens. It happens. It doesn't need to stop me in any way. By having this access to the deliciousness with which I look at life, it gets me to look at any situation in its fullness. And I'm able to do that because I am being delicious. And once you look at something in its fullness, you can actually find solutions. And when you heard me talk about, how I realized that I've run out of pages, and I'm here in Dubai, and I'm about to get my residency stamped on my passport, and it has no pages. The only way to get it is having to send my original passport to England, and get a renewal and get a new passport. I mean, that is like, my God, you don't do that. You're in a foreign country. You don't just send your passport away. Well, I was in this space of deliciousness, looked at the full picture of everything that was going on. And I knew that it would mean I would be here for anything from 3 to 6 weeks. That's what the passport authorities told me in England, because they couldn't guarantee when things would get done, just because of offices being closed and the lockdowns becoming more and more severe. So I looked at the full picture, looked at what are the pieces that I needed to talk to someone else about. And looking at the full picture, I made a choice. And then, applied for a renewal, sent my original passport back. And 10 days later, I have my new passport, and I have the old passport as well, even though they said 3 to 6 weeks. But it could have been, oh no, my gosh, this is awful. This is so, uncertain. What's going to happen now? I won't be there at the time of the birth of my new grandson. So many things could have multiplied. And, it would have become a persistent complaint, giving me a way of being, which would just have propagated that complaint. So deliciousness transforms your way of being. And here's the fourth ramification, which is a really important one in the context of our 10 commandments. And the fourth ramification really is that this is a doorway. It opens the doorway to whatever it is that you're engaged in, for the impact of that you're seeking, for it to be, to move from being a sustainable one to becoming regenerative. So when you apply the delicious lens, and it's not just a lens, it's a declaration, really. It's a declaration. So the experience of deliciousness is regenerative. Now, the interesting thing, therefore, is if the experience of deliciousness is regenerative, when I got that, I decided that, okay, how am I going to have access to it? Given that it is something so tactile and it creates a transformation in my way of being, then what can I do to have access to this experience of deliciousness in the first place? Well, taste buds. It's a very, very tactile, very physical experience. So what if I just indulge myself in, having that one meal that I have a day, for it to be delicious, like, physically delicious? I started experimenting. with ingredients. I started experimenting with looks of foods. I started seeking out chefs that have got restaurants. And being in Dubai has been really helpful because some of the world's best chefs have got beautiful restaurants here. And right now, you would never be able to get into those restaurants in the past. But with what has occurred with the lockdown and stuff, you can, because not many people are there that can, usually tourists would be able to afford to go into these restaurants quite easily. And right now you are able to get into these restaurants. So if it gave me access to deliciousness, which it does, deliciousness shifts my way of being, which it did. And it's regenerative. And I already know that universe is my partner. And I don't even now need to think about the universe because I know that all I have to do is to bring about an experience that is wholesome and fully invigorating, and the universe will just multiply that. So what about the universe multiplying deliciousness? And here's the thing, given that deliciousness is regenerative and you can access it just by, you can begin accessing it by what you eat, and that experience you have, it could be a cup of coffee, it could be a cup of tea, it could be anything. It could even be water. I know some of you here have experienced the miracle water that has come from the paintings that I've done that transforms the construct of water. It could be even just that. And it starts to multiply, and you start to see it in various areas of your life because it shifts your way of being. And that way of being is regenerative. And, for myself, I saw, wow. So can I apply deliciousness even to a memory of something that didn't feel that pleasant at a particular point in time? And just because and then the answer was, I don't know. Okay, now I'm comfortable with that. So let me take a memory that wasn't very comfortable. We all have them, And this delicious adventure into the realm of I don't know, applied to anything that may feel very unpleasant in your life, you start to discover the nuggets in it. And that's the next ramification. It starts, deliciousness starts you off on an adventure of discovery. And you start discovering stuff. This is where the deliriousness comes in. When I implemented it on memories that weren't very pleasant, I'm not going to share them here because they were not very pleasant memories, but you can try it for yourself, And I was sort of, really all I did was just go into the memory of something that occurred and allowed myself to discover. Given that delicious leads to discovery, I allowed myself to discover the full lay of the land of what occurred at the time in terms of facts. I developed this amazing skill of taking taking a memory and post-morteming it, if you like, separating out the facts of what happened and the meaning that I gave to it, and realizing that the upset or the discomfort that I experienced, if I just took the facts as a fact, it doesn't cause any discomfort. It's just a factual thing. It's only the meaning that I gave to it that would cause discomfort. But the meaning I gave to it, okay, that in itself was delicious to discover that I gave the meaning, and then I was sort of holding on to my experience of a meaning, which wasn't even what happened. Drop that. Because I can, I'm the one who created the meaning, and I'm the one who held on to my experience of it. So suddenly, that yuckiness disappeared, gone. I actually found it hard to find yuckiness once I did this. And then I sort of decided to go on a binge. I thought, okay, this is great. If I can transform this one part of my life, let me just go for lots of different parts of my life, which aren't quite the way the way I would have loved them to be, only to discover that each one gave me access to something that I hadn't even noticed. And I absolutely had not acknowledged and therefore not owned. And once I owned it, then I just knew this way of being will just be regenerated. So go on, a delicious discovery adventure and apply it to parts of your life that feel, dysfunctional, memories that just take you where you really don't want to be. And we all have our own foibles. So you'll find what they are for yourself and use that delicious declaration, shifting your way of being and going on a discovery tour. It really became a discovery tour of my life. And when you do something like this and you get to see the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, and you're on this discovery tour, you get to be present to, and you get to savor the richness of your life. And in becoming present to that richness of your life, you experience aliveness. In you experiencing aliveness, you become one with nature. In you becoming one with nature, you stand in okayness. And you can be, and you get anchored in okayness. So you can now expand, and you can be wild in your expansion. And you will be steadfast in your center of gravity. And you can be delirious with the expansiveness that you're now experiencing. And really rejoice in the delight of the fullness of your life, how you are coming alive. That becomes available with this delicious discovery tour. The next ramification of delicious really is the delight. Delicious delight. It's the name of a chocolate bar or something, I think. We can call it things delicious delight and know the vibrational depth of giving something that name. So delight is at a vibrational level, Delight's innate vibration is rejoice. It's a vibration of rejoicing. Rejoicing is a very proactive choice. You choose to rejoice. And when you apply one of these three things that you're born with as like a catalyst, it becomes a catalyst. When you apply one of the three things, what are the three things we are born with? We are born with choice, we are born with dignity, and we are born with our own unique mastery. I call it source mastery. When you apply any one of these to whatever it is that you're engaged in, the multiplier effect of that is astounding. And the universe, there's a purity to it. So therefore, the universe picks it up. Now you can apply choice to feeling, oh my, devastation and upset and frustration. And the universe will pick it up. There's a purity to it. You've applied one of those three things that you are born with, which is uncontaminable and uncontaminated. So delicious delight has a vibe of rejoice, and rejoice is a matter of choice. It automatically brings in the choice element of what you are born with. And here you're applying the choice to rejoicing. And you will notice it. It's celebration is one way of expressing rejoicing. I love to use the power of these words, So today's Friday. Friday is a Sunday here in this part of the world. It's a Sunday equivalent, right? So everybody has a vacation. They have their weekly day off work. So I like to make Friday as a very conscious rejoicing day. And you can go ahead and use it for yourself. You're about to meet a friend. Okay, I'm going to have a rejoicing experience. That's all you do. You just make that choice. And coming from deliciousness, you're already saying that delight is going to be the consequence of this interaction that I'm about to have. You have consciously added the catalyst of choice. And it becomes a delightful experience. If you're looking at a memory that isn't quite comfortable, and you apply this choice of delight to that discovery, coming from a space of the delicious beingness, the universe just multiplies the nuances that you will continue to discover and rejoice in. I'm really getting that these pearls of wisdom, each pearl literally builds this world and anchors that which can be transformative for old systems and structures and habits and patterns, so that they become in line with the foundations of the new world. So the delight, the delicious delight, it's literally the yumminess of you. And when I hear the phrase delicious delight, I think of Turkish delight as the the sweet that there is. And then to realize, oh, actually, this is all about me. So the delicious delight results in the vibe of rejoicing. And rejoicing is the one that is regenerative, automatically regenerative. And the seventh ramification, which is such a profound one, and it's a quest that so many highly evolved spiritual beings have been after. And the seventh ramification is it plugs you in to your knowing. You literally land from data all the way to knowing, and you can start operating from a knowing state. When you start operating from a knowing state, like coming from a space of knowing, you can receive huge amounts of inputs in terms of data. You can take a lot of information. You can literally convert that data, assimilate it, convert it into information. You can be distilling it, deciphering it at the same time as receiving more data. Because you're stationed in your inner knowing. And it is your inner knowing that knows best. You don't get, I mean, this is a really big one where, I find this a lot, where people are really upset or disturbed, and I know it's not their energy, they've picked it up. Because sometimes when we are bombarded with all this data, information, even information is being bombarded at us in the form of data. So it's not even information, it pretends to be. It's just yet another stimulus, yet another input. But so as a result, it can become overwhelming. And in that overwhelming experience, it could actually affect our own energetic presence and take us off center. Whilst we grapple with it and convert that information into knowledge, and then we're trying to figure out what to do with this knowledge as more data is coming in, at best, vast majority of humans are just in data, information, knowledge, data, information, knowledge. That's what is going on. It's like an infinity cycle that's playing out. If you can find something that can get you stationed in a knowing, and we all have a knowing about certain things. Those of us who are mothers, think about little incidents in your life. When your baby was young, or when you were experiencing motherhood for the first time, or even the second or third time, that you operated from knowing. So we know how to operate from knowing. We just don't necessarily do it. We sometimes put that understanding of ourselves in a I don't know place. When you get stationed in knowing, and you actually tone that knowing muscle, you tone coming from that space of knowing, and you make your choices coming from that space. Remember, knowing, when you're operating from knowing, you are automatically, honoring your own worthiness. So dignity is already in place. What is dignity? It is honoring of your own worthiness and coming from that space. Joni, my partner in the World Dignity Forum, how we conceived it and took it out into the world. You heard me talk about this, Joni, again and again and again, and you too have shared this. It is one of the three things that we are born with. Knowing automatically activates dignity within you. When dignity is activated within you, you are standing in a place where you are honoring your own worthiness. And from that space, you just honor that in others. It comes from a knowing. That is the knowing that we are born with, that we are worthy. We have choice. We have a unique mastery, which is our gift into the world. So the moment you are able to get to a knowing place and station yourself in the knowing place, all of these things that are in the realm of knowing come alive. And when they come alive, you are stationed in whole and complete. Miracles are your norm, unequivocally. You can receive lots of information, lots of data can come at you. Some pieces you will convert into knowledge, and from that knowledge will rise wisdom. But it's as if there are various layers that in the past would have been working all simultaneously together. They get compartmentalized. There's an automatic sifting that starts to take place, and a level of clarity that just lands. And your knowingness becomes regenerative. And here's the other piece about knowing, which is how it again links to one of the very important commandments that is foundational to this new world, which is a switch from command and control to collaborative co-creation of coexistence. When you come from a space of knowing, it is collaborative. Collaboration between your physical self and your higher self to begin with. And then it multiplies from there. And it is all about co-creation. It is all about coexistence. That knowing tells you. Making a world that is serving you as humans, that won't exist if you start destroying nature. You start contaminating water, contaminating air. There's a knowingness with which you come. So it's really powerful. This last ramification of deliciousness. I mean, I really did go delirious when I understood this ramification that, wow, I just have to activate this deliciousness by eating yummy food, get that going at least, gives me access to it in a very physical way, and then it can multiply from there. I can go on a delicious discovery tour. And it just multiplies, and it is toning my knowing muscle, operating from a space of knowing. So what happens with me now? I get data, and I don't even realize when that cycle completes. It is a cycle. You do go through those steps. The speed with which you go through those steps, where data becomes information, becomes knowledge, becomes wisdom, becomes knowing, is depending on how toned your knowing muscle is. So Catherine, I know you've asked me many times, do you have to meditate to connect and then communicate well? And then now you know that I'm just like switched on all the time, and I'm full on switched on all the time in this respect. Well, it's coming from knowing, being stationed in knowing. You being stationed in knowing is you being plugged into what I call as the all-knowing, and it is you in your connection to the all-knowing is who knows best. You are the one who knows what is best for you. This is the other thing that those of you who've done work with me over a period of time have heard me say this. Another one of my mantras: do what is best for you. It is best for all. I'm talking about best, not just what's good for you. The best piece, anything that's in the best category really does come from a knowing. What is amazing for me is to understand that being in this knowing space activates the remembrance of dignity. the remembrance of dignity brings back the cellular memory of all that is within us that has us know that we are worth it. And you start honoring your own worthiness and not seeking it outside of you. You can seek it outside of you once you're honoring your own worthiness, and it has a completely different impact. So this is really the journey of delicious, delirious, and delightful. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Mynoo. Thank you so much. You know, I always love it when I get that aha again. It's like a deja vu. And this whole idea of honoring our own worthiness and utilizing these 3Ds and just how natural it is when we just get out of the way of ourselves sometimes. I love it. It's beautiful. So I think tonight, if you would like to share a word, a thought, a phrase, a sentence, a question, anything that you would like to bring forth to Mynoo, we have about 4 minutes. So in the playful nature of this deliciousness that Mynoo has brought us into, please go ahead and share with us whatever it is that's coming up for you, and we'll just explore. So we have delicious experience of joy, delicious dignity, beautiful. In 3D. D's, yes. Oh, goodness. Delicious serenity. Great stuff. Knowing how delicious, if all is powerful. Sorry, guys, I'm losing a little bit here of my light. So knowing how delicious, if all is powerful. Love that. Super insightful. I want to be in knowing all the time. I agree. Absolutely delicious and yummy. Being in knowing is the most delicious stage of my life. Yes. Being in the knowing is the most delicious stage of my life. Endeavoring to do what's best for me. Wonderful. Being aware, conscious choice. Going to 5D. Fabulous. I want to know what's on the other side of 5D, Mynoo.
You certainly had the fourth one, right? With discovery.
Yes, yes. Big smiles as I am wrapped in deliciousness and delight. Rejoicing in choice. I am anchored in deliciousness. Ooh, here we go. 10D. Love that. I'm curious, Mynoo, at this stage in the game, if you could say, obviously we're already past 3D and 4D and moving into 5D, you know, what is the next, or what is possible at this point?
Anything you can imagine is possible. It's just a function of your imagination. We have all really, it depends on what you're vibrating, but depending on where you're at, there is sufficient critical mass of humans who really can be creating the world that they want to see for themselves. And as we create the world that we want to see for ourselves, that vibe multiplies. The holographic connections of pretty much everyone has expanded quite significantly. For some, it's more far-reaching than others. So anything that you can imagine, you can create.
Well, when we first started this conversation, I referenced Willy Wonka, and I feel like I'm in the deliciousness of the chocolate factory. Who else is with me on that one? And we have 108D. I actually misread it and thought it said 10D, but now we're 108D.
Wow, that's another power to it.
It sure is. To live is to feel, is to know, is to be. I love that.
Great.
Endless smiles, 108D. Wow. Well, I think it is now 6:30 on the nose, and I don't know. I'm going to sleep really well tonight, just imagining the deliciousness and being with all of you, and just, so grateful for this wisdom, that you bestow on us. And how fun was this tonight with all the deliciousness of the deliriousness of these 3Ds.
Yeah, so you can add dreams to it. So we have delicious, delirious, delightful discovery in your dreams.
Ah, I love that. And with that, I think we'll close the evening. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here tonight. How fun. Thank you, Mynoo. And we will be right back. I love all the waves, the smiles, more chocolate. Thank you all for being here tonight. Love to all of you. And we will see you right here next week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning. Saturdays have become so delicious, I have to say, with the Beyond Meditation. So don't miss the Saturday.
Great. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye.